Audio.
This gentleman
All right, let's
is
listen in.
a real expert. You've been doing this how long?
25 years, sir.
And you were here before they had a wall.
Correct. I started here in 1992.
And what was it like until you built the wall? And the wall, by the way, is that wall up there, which is just sheet metal, but still at least it works a little bit. How was it before you built the wall?
So there was effectively no border in San Diego. It was a chaotic situation. This fence behind me, it was made out of scrap metal that the military wasn't using, that we set in place to really just delineate the border once again.
You needed something.
And it changed our environment. We went from, we decreased the illegal cross-border traffic by 95% with that fence and the roads and the lights and the technology.
So that's 95% with a scrap metal wall that they just put together with excess material. And it worked 95%. And that wall they can get over very easily. These walls they can't. But, you know, for the people that say no wall, if you didn't have walls over here, you wouldn't even have a country. You wouldn't even have a country. And by the way, the state of California is begging us to build walls in certain areas. They don't tell you that. And we said, no, we won't do it until we build the whole wall. But there are certain areas, as you know, where they're really wanting us to build a wall. And because the people are complaining, people are pouring in. So, you know, they don't talk about that. Well, I do have a preference. The problem is you have to have see-through. You have to know what's on the other side of the wall. And I mean, a preference is something like that. The problem is you don't know what's on the other side of the wall. And if you don't know what's on, I mean, you could be 2 feet away from a criminal cartel and you don't even know they're there. Now, we have equipment to take care of that, X-ray equipment, etc. But if you're on that side of the wall, that's the hardest wall to scale. It's got a lot of assets. The problem is, tell them, what do you think about the importance of see-through?
When I have a see-through wall, sir, I know what's approaching the border before it approaches. We have great partners in Mexico with the law enforcement on that side. I can call them for assistance. I don't get the opportunity to get ahead of a threat if I can't see it approaching.
And what's the danger of not having the see-through?
When the steel metal fence behind us, we learned from that, and back in the 90s, we went in and actually cut in cords where we could see on the south side. We found that smugglers were using the fence to hide behind. And they were either rocking our agents or they would acquire large groups of people or narcotics, and then they would just rush across the border quickly.
Now, if you just have a pure fence, now that's a fence, a very sturdy fence. But coming up, I noticed, the first thing I noticed, look how many holes are in that fence. Now, they fix the holes, but it doesn't look very good. They just patch it with more fence. But you take a look at the fence, and it's a very powerful fence, not doing the trick, because they cut holes in it, and then they're patching holes all the time. I'm just looking, you have hundreds of holes cut in and patched. So the fence is not strong enough. It's not the right idea. But for those people, if you don't have a wall system, we're not gonna have a country. There's a lot of problems in Mexico. They have a lot of problems over there. And they have the cartels, and the cartels, we're fighting the cartels, and we're fighting them hard. Nobody ever fought them like we fought them. I mean, we fight them hard. But the fact is, if you don't have a wall system, it would be bedlam, I imagine.
It's very hard to control with just personnel, sir. It's a combination of all the above.
So we're looking at the walls where you have really some see-through capability. If you don't have some see-through, it's a problem. So we'll take a look up here.
He's fine.
So we've been listening into President Trump there. He is surveying some of the prototypes for a border wall there. I've got Leslie Sanchez, CBSN contributor and Republican strategist on set, joining me now. I'd love to fact check this statistic. He said, the president said 95% decrease in traffic with a metal border there. True or false?
No, absolutely an increase in that, and a double-digit increase in traffic moving across the rest of the U.S.-Mexico border. You increase the enforcement in one area, like a balloon, it puts pressure on a lot of the more kind of the hazardous terrain, the mountainous terrain, which is why you see an increase of deaths, an increase of kind of not NGO organizations going out there and trying to provide water, food, because people were dying in the desert. It became an extreme kind of very hazardous condition as they were moving out of areas that were more urban like that and just did different things. So that's why the question becomes of a continuous wall, which is, you know, a very difficult reality to make things. And the other thing the president's talking about is a wall can go so high, but we don't think about all the underground tunnels. Yeah. I saw a lot of areas along the U.S.-Mexico border where you could drive, you know, a U-Haul truck across with contraband, all sorts of different things. Basically, they were underground in the Rio Grande River, and you just drive right across. I mean, there's so many different things and variables to take into consideration, but it's not just up. It's underground.
Underground as well. Yeah. What do you think really works, Leslie? Are there any alternatives to building this wall that people are talking about?
You know, it's interesting. Laredo, Texas is the largest inland port in America, right? There's more traffic moving through there. There's a couple things to think about. One, they say only about 2% of trucks, like the big trucks that are moving merchandise and different things, are inspected. So there's a question of inspections. But they'll also say they started getting creative about, okay, if we're going to have a wall, then let's try to find something that is aesthetically pleasing, has strong enforcement, doesn't deter business, you know, but it allows all the different interests to come together, and they're developing some creative ideas independently that the president would probably want to see, because they're trying to take control of their own city. That city depends on that commerce. They depend on that, you know, kind of those custom broker fees and such for a thriving economy, and it's something that to look at the business interest of trade and not take that into consideration. Let's say to not take that consideration is really a detriment to America.
You're seeing the president touring these, inspecting some of these different border walls. What do you make of the photo op here that you're seeing of the president? Why is he doing this now?
I think it's a very positive photo op for the president in the sense that it's going to look tough on crime. He's going to look tough, you know, on national security. He's going to do, again, he is pointing just Mexico's got all these problems, Mexico's got these cartels. Latin America has a lot of these cartels. They are moving through Mexico. Mexico has its challenges, but they also have an increasing middle class. They also have an increasing kind of high academia and kind of transference of knowledge and growing and thriving. There's more engineers there, Mexican engineers coming out of there. So they're really diversifying their country because they have a high stakes situation. So I think painting it with broad brushstrokes is very limiting. It's a good photo op, but it's not the reality.
Fascinating take on exactly what's happening on this border wall and the president touring it. We also know that he's got a long day in California. In addition to touring this facility, he's also going to be attending a fundraiser, I believe, in Beverly Hills. Nice. In addition,
California is the ATM of America, so you know,
for political fundraising as well. What do you make of that, Leslie, and his war chest at this point?
Sure, California is an ATM for fundraisers. Republican and Democrat, you know, small. They're going to be out in Brentwood and all those great areas and Beverly Hills and having these fundraisers. It's never a bad time to raise money if you're on a political campaign. That's the reality. We're in a midterm season. It's good to keep those alliances. It's good for the president to keep touching base, to show that he's interested in California, though he doesn't get there very much. And I do think one thing we should mention is those Border Patrol agents work extremely hard. They're career individuals. They see this every day. They risk their life in some really treacherous circumstances. They need the support, but I think if you talk to them privately, they want more than a wall. They want training, they want technology, they want more resources, they want, you know, not to have to work so much overtime. They want the reality of a very difficult job with a very limited number of people. So addressing those needs is going to be just as critical as building a fence.
The president, I should mention, also is joined by the Chief Border Patrol Sector Agent Rodney Scott, who's helped explain some of the difficulties along that border as well, and also explain putting up the fence and what it would do exactly with this border wall. Leslie, we were talking a little bit about the optics of the president, approval rating hovering about 38%, roughly, give or take. Where is the president now with his base and also those fundraisers we were talking about?
Sure. Well, I think smaller donations are actually strong. If you look at the Republican National Committee, they're feeling really good. People are still contributing. There's a big, heavy coffers going into the midterm. The president's still able to generate those dollars, even smaller campaign contributions, which are always critical, and it also points to enthusiasm. But is he growing beyond that? There's no indication that that's the case. And the longer-term effect, what is it doing in terms of people wanting to run under the Republican brand and deciding to throw themselves in? There's so much talk about, you know, female candidates, women candidates really running in 2018, but not nearly as many Republican women as they should be, because they really don't identify in many cases with the policies of the president. They don't really want to be in the aftershock of that. And I don't know that they're getting the financial support and being really wooed and recruited to be part of the Republican ticket. And those things have to be addressed as well.
We know that particularly white women helped bring President Trump to office in particular. Are we seeing these women countering it all, or do they sort of stand by Trump and feel that he's the maverick who's, turned Washington upside down, and some people feel like he's getting stuff done?
Well, no, I think a lot of people do. They may not like his style, but if you're going to just look points on the board, he's done a lot of things that conservatives and base Republicans are going to agree with. If you can ignore all the caustic aspects, all these other, kind of innuendos and issues that surround the hemispheric aspects of the presidency, which is, I tell you, from a female perspective, is very hard to ignore. And that's going to be the challenge moving ahead.
I want to interrupt you for 1 second. The president's speaking. Let's listen into what he has to say.
Drugs, everything else pouring across. Now, of course, you have a much bigger worldwide drug problem. If we ever had nothing here, we have a lousy wall over here now, but at least it stops 95%. When we put up the real wall, we're going to stop 99%, maybe more than that. But this is what it is now with a not very good wall. But here it is before, and the people just pouring across.
This is one of the sections where we have double fencing. You have a board, actually triple fencing. You have a wall here, you have bollards.
Right.
And again, it's outdated materials, but it proved the concept. But sir, the economic driver of this outlet mall that was built after we reestablished law and order in San Diego sector, and right behind that's over 500 brand new homes where people have felt so safe near the border, they've moved back in. But that's only because the U.S. Border Patrol reestablished law and order.
So they reestablished law and order in San Diego when they put up a wall. And it's not a superior wall, it's an inferior wall, but it's a wall. And you actually use the term reestablished law and order.
Yes, sir.
Do you hear it, folks? I mean, say what you want. This is life. These are the facts of life. That's incredible. That's incredible. And a part of San Diego needs a wall. They want a wall very desperately. They're willing to do anything to get it. I said, nope, approve the whole wall, California. Approve the whole wall. We're not going to do your little pieces that you want. Approve the whole wall. You know the section I'm talking about. Okay, folks. Thank you. You get it?
Has been helpful for you?
Excuse me?
Has coming here to
Oh, yeah,
CB's been...
fantastic. I mean, we're looking very much at the wall with some see-through capability on the other side and then solid concrete on top or steel and concrete on top. The round piece that you see up here or you see more clearly back there, the larger it is, the better it is because it's very hard to get over the top. It's really deterrent from getting over the top. Who would think? Who would think? But getting over the top is easy. These are like professional mountain climbers. They're incredible climbers. They can't climb some of these walls. Some of them they can. Those are the walls we're not using. So we've determined that you guys have done a fantastic job. We've determined what to do. This way, when we build, we're not like saying, oh, gee, I wish we did it a different way. But if you didn't have it, you would have a tremendous problem. And even the walls they have now, they're not holding out. They're not holding up. And they're small, but they're really great compared to what they had before.
Correct.
Stopped about 95%. Right?
Correct. I can just point out, we're showing pictures of the United States, of course, too. But there's been an equal benefit to Tijuana, to Mexico, that you don't have all that activity hanging out on the south side of the fence either. It's improved the border on both sides, not just our side.
Okay, folks?
So what do you
Pretty
say to criticism from Governor Brown that some of this money might be better spent elsewhere?
Well, I think Governor Brown's done a very poor job running California. They have the highest taxes in the United States. The place is totally out of control. You have sanctuary cities where you have criminals living in the sanctuary cities. And then the mayor of Oakland goes out and notifies when ICE is going in to pick them up. And many of them were criminals with criminal records and very dangerous people, you would say dangerous people. And no, I think the governor's doing a terrible job running the state of California. And, you know, hey, I have property in California, I will say. I don't think too much about my property anymore, but I have great property in California. The taxes are way, way out of whack. And people are going to start to move pretty soon. And if you don't have safety, meaning if you don't have this kind of wall, the drugs are pouring through in California. Can't do it. So the governor of California, nice guy, I think he's a nice guy, I knew him a long time ago, has not done the job. And the taxes are double and triple what they should be. And everybody that lives in California, they know it.